strategize together. Let's hear it from an expert. Join the conversation, it's informative and free. You and me, let's talk some strategy. Now here's your host, Dorien, Morin-van, vanDam.
Hello, everybody. My name is Dorien Morin-van, and I'm your host right here at Strategy Talk. As always, I want to welcome those of you who are here live with us on Twitter, on YouTube, on LinkedIn, or on Facebook. And if you're here live, give us a shout out. Tell us where you're joining us from. I want to make sure that I say hello to those of you who might watch this on the replay. Put hashtag replay in the comments so both my guest and I will know that you're watching this at a later date. And as always, a very, very special shout out to those of you who listen to Strategy Talks as a podcast. I want to do a special shout out as well to our sponsor, Social Insider. They are the intuitive dashboard for social media analytics, reporting, and competitors analysis for brands and agencies. If you need data, you need Social Insider. So without much further ado, I want to introduce you to today's guest. His name is Jeremy Linaburg, and he's from Wholesome Media. So let me read you his bio so you know exactly who Jeremy is and why he and I will be talking about organic, social, and communities. Two things that I love to talk about too. So I'm super excited. Jeremy is a social media and community building nerd. After his undergrad, he loved marketing so much that he got his master's in marketing from College of William and Mary. As the owner of Wholesome Media, he works with clients worldwide on organic social strategy and community management. He recently took on a new position as a social media specialist at his dream job for swim outlets. So, Jeremy, let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Let's just dive right in, right?
Well, first of all, I want to say, Dorien, thank you so much for having me on. You and I have been in talks for a while, so I'm super excited to get to hang out with you and the Strategy Talk folks that listen to the show as well. So super excited to talk. But yeah, I got my dream job, which kind of came out of nowhere. I didn't have any intentions on finding something new or anything like that. However, as we talked a few seconds ago, a friend of mine, I'm a swimmer, I coach swimming, that kind of thing. And so I've been around water basically all my life. And a friend of mine, one of the coaches, sent me this position and was like, hey, it marries two things that you love so much, social media and swimming. So I applied thinking, whatever, you know. And I ended up getting it, which was super amazing. It's a dream. I'm going into my fourth week right now into the position, but I have learned a lot thus far, been able to be subjected to different types of communities, a different community than what I'm used to working with, to be honest with you, and also new ways to create content on Instagram and TikTok specifically. So I'm learning a lot, but I did not get rid of Wholesome Media at all. The agency that my wife and I run, we're still doing that. We have a manager that's helping us facilitate daily tasks and all that kind of stuff. But, you know, we're just moving and grooving over here and trying to adjust to the crazy things that happen in life. So
all right, so I want to actually jump in on something that you just said before we jump into the questions that I have prepared.
Okay.
What are you doing differently on Instagram and TikTok? How are you creating things differently for Swim Outlet that has you fascinated? I would love to know.
Yeah, so basically in the swimming industry, there's been a big shift of the way that you create content. So a lot of the times, because cameras and stuff, A, are probably super expensive, but B, the underwater footage, it's kind of hard to get that depending on the type of camera or specifically phone you have. So in the past, we've seen a lot of content on the top of the surface of the water. And then probably around the last year and a half, GoPros came out before that, but they've been doing a lot of underwater shooting, but it's only been like one dimensional. So it's been really hard to get different angles and stuff. the new kind of thing that we're seeing, and that's again just getting kind of introduced into the content formatting and creation is drone footage. So
Ooh.
and drones are being implemented at different meets and that kind of stuff, which is also kind of tricky because in some locations and states, depending on the height that you fly the drone, you can't do it. Do you know what I'm saying? And
Right. Yeah.
so
Especially when you do indoor swimming, correct?
exactly,
Right.
exactly. Yeah. So that is an avenue that swimming is going in. That's a direction it's going in, and so that's some of the fun content that we've been playing with, and just seeing how we can up and be really. I don't like to use the word trendsetter, but a trendsetter in the space as a brand with using drone content.
I
So.
love that. So until now, I know realtors use
Mhm,
drones for a
mhm.
lot of their photographs and flyover videos, right? I
Yeah,
don't know
yeah,
what other industry uses drones. So this is super interesting that swimming would be starting to. So I love that. Thank you
yeah,
for
yeah.
that. As soon as you said it, I'm like, I know there's a story. Let's talk about organic social media, right? I just returned from social media marketing world, and in his keynote, Mike Stelzner talked about Facebook, that Facebook has made a recurrent, I don't even know if it was really gone to some people.
Mm,
People have kind of left Facebook, but he said, pay attention to Facebook. And
mhm.
I've stayed on Facebook all along because, like you, I'm a community manager. So Facebook
Mhm.
has always sort of been my number one platform.
Sure.
But I know a lot of people have left for TikTok, for Instagram, and YouTube, and especially LinkedIn too.
Mhm.
So, what are you seeing on Facebook? One of the things that I've seen that I just share with you in the green room is that Facebook groups are
Yeah.
sort of ghost towns all of a sudden.
Mhm.
What are you seeing? What are you seeing for organic in community on Facebook?
Yeah, so I would say I'll be fully transparent. I don't spend a lot of time on Facebook, myself, other than to post, natively for clients or, post an update about what is going on in my life. But in terms of a business perspective, I would say the biggest thing, not the business thing, the biggest thing I see is I personally think that the kind of reel format that they're developing and creating, kind of building off of Instagram, is gonna take off. This is an assumption. I don't have other than just things I've read and people I'm seeing create on there. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there, to be honest with you. Um, so in that area, I see potential growth for Facebook. In terms of business, unless you have like a super tight knit community, and maybe Dorien, you can chime into this too more so, but unless you have like a super tight knit community Facebook group, I see what you're kind of seeing, and that there's not a lot of engagement. Like
Mhm.
for example, I'm in a couple public groups that I check in on daily, and there's like they'll post, but there's just not much engagement happening at all. However, in the private groups that I'm a part of, where I personally feel like the communities have been built up and they're more tight knit, there's a lot of talking and connection and conversation. So, where, is Facebook dead? I think from a business standpoint, if you're trying to build up your brand on Facebook, I would really think about that and what the purpose and the goal is, and big view, where is Facebook standing at the moment culturally? Um, do I think they're dead? I don't know the answer to that. I don't have a direct answer if they're dead. But if you're looking to start a public Facebook group, I'm not so sure I would take that step for your business at the moment.
All
So,
right, that's kind of what I have seen as well. So one of the things that I did notice last week, because I was on location, I work
mhm,
from home,
mhm,
and so I don't really post a lot to Facebook on my page. But I was doing stories on Instagram, and through the
mhm,
Meta Suite, my page is connected, and so
yeah,
my stories automatically went to my page, and my page took off. So
Okay.
there's a little experiment. It's just a one-person experiment, but
Yeah.
if you are doing Instagram for a business and they have a page, get those stories onto your page as well. It's a
Mhm.
simple connection, and see if you get any traction through Facebook stories. I do know that short form vertical content is doing well almost across every platform, because
Yeah.
that seems to be what everybody wants to watch. As long as
Right.
it's short and entertaining, that's what people are
Mhm.
going for. So if you are feeling like, hey, a lot of things aren't working, try stories for a little bit, or
Mhm.
reels. The other thing I wanted to point out is that some of the Facebook group features are going away. I feel like Facebook has kind of abandoned the Facebook groups, and
Mhm.
that's just my opinion. I know that topics are going away. There's just chat isn't really working. I'm in several
Right.
groups where chats was a new feature, and then people just sort of panicked. They by accident got into chats and didn't know how to get out. So I'm in
Mhm.
several groups that disable chats, that are like, we're not going to use them. Facebook Lives in groups aren't really getting traction. The engagement isn't there. And then one of the things that happened is this week, again, being in the community for social media marketing world, I'm
Mhm.
seeing posts from like 4 or 5 days ago. That's what I'm being served in
Huh.
my feed, instead of what's being talked about now. So it's really not very functional anymore. And
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm
Mhm.
sort of disappointed, but also seeing that there's other opportunities. And that's the thing that we just have to remember with organic, right?
Yep.
Go to
Yep.
the newest features, go use those, and
Mhm.
see what traction you can get. So let's move on to community, if you don't
Can
mind, Jeremy.
can I
Um,
jump in there? Can I
yeah,
jump
so
in
go
there?
ahead. Yeah.
I'm sorry. I do have one point. It's also kind of ironic to me, to be honest with you, that Facebook is kind of starting to move away from Facebook groups, if you will, if that's what we wanna assume at this point, because, like, a lot of their advertising that they do, even specifically on TV, I know they had, like, a big Super Bowl commercial, I think
Yep.
it was either 2 years ago or a year ago now at this point, where they focused heavily on Facebook groups, like, being
Yes.
groups, connectivity, all of this stuff, so personally, for me, and this might be a little controversial, I get a little annoyed, and a little sick of, you know, Facebook saying, "Hey, let's do this. Let's really build this up," and then, "Oh, no, a year later, I'm gonna pull back all of these features from you," and it's like, "What are you doing?" You know?
Yeah, Jeremy, I've seen the same thing. I think it was 2 years ago, and that's actually something that I've used to sell my services as a community manager. When Facebook
Mhm.
puts out a Super Bowl ad about Facebook groups, that's the feature they're promoting. I
Right.
think with the round of layoffs that they did in November, my
Mhm.
theory is that that's when a lot of the Facebook group engineers were laid off.
Ah,
I'm thinking that is what happened, because I
okay.
think the shift of less engagement and new features and things were happening right around Christmas and then the first
Okay.
quarter of 2023. So that's my theory, not
That makes
based
sense.
on anything else from what I'm seeing. But I agree with you. I'm annoyed too. But we're in strategy talks, right?
Mhm.
This is
Mhm.
a Facebook strategy. That's their strategy. If
Yeah.
they put all their money behind it, they put all their engineers behind something, and then it wasn't producing the results they wanted, no wonder they're
Right,
saying,
right.
why do we sink more money in it? It would just be
Yeah.
nice if transparency came with it and said, hey guys, we told you all to build groups, but wait a minute, let's go to stories and reels right now, right?
Right.
It would be good if we got that transparency from Facebook, and we're not. But I think
Yeah.
inferencing, you and I both are kind of seeing the same thing. That makes a lot of sense.
Mhm.
So jumping from that, then where are you building community, Jeremy, and where are
Mhm.
you building those connections for your business and for the swim outlet, the business, and
Mhm.
the company that you work for, and for your clients? If it's not
Yeah.
on Facebook and in groups, where are you going to build these
Mhm.
communities?
So this is very multifaceted for me because I feel like I'm wearing 3 different hats. From a personal side, personal brand kind of side of things of Jeremy and who I'm trying to connect with, how I'm building a community. I would say I'm leaning again heavily into Twitter, which I've found ever since I've started my Twitter page in college. That is where I've found the most knowledge and friendship and just connectivity. Recently, though, I have been dabbling more, and I think you and I had some talks about this a little bit too, in LinkedIn.
Hmm.
I felt in the beginning of 2023 like I wanted to jump into the platform more, and I feel like I could do even more than I am now. But personally, I think that's another place where I'm really just right now, I'm maneuvering through my feed and connecting and just conversating with different people to start building a community there. I wouldn't say that I have one at the moment. Um, I mean, obviously, I have somewhat of a community because I have people that follow me and that kind of stuff. But
Right.
you get what I'm trying to say here.
Yes.
And so I would say those are the two places at the moment for me personally. In terms of the Wholesome Media brand and where we're trying to build community is on Twitter and LinkedIn as well. But more specifically, we're wanting to build a community that understands that we're leaders in organic social, that we're leaders in developing community, and that we like talking with people that nerd out on those things as well. Um, and so I'm kind of moving through this quickly. So if you have something to
No, no, no,
pinpoint, let
no.
me know.
This is great. Yeah.
Um, and I would say for a little bit of a shift, for a lot of our clients, we're building community actually on Instagram, more so than their LinkedIn pages. Right now, with a couple Airbnbs and a couple real estate agencies and designers, their Instagram communities have been Instagram communities, listen to me. Their Instagram feeds have the content that they've been creating to push out to those feeds leads to a lot of conversation, which end result is building a stronger community. So I would say with a lot of our clients, it's more so Instagram. And then the other question was Swim Outlet. Where are we building community? Right now, strongly building community on TikTok. Our TikTok
Mm.
pages, both for the private label brand, along with Sporty as the encompassing company, are really we're striving really hard to build relationships with our ambassadors along with their communities. And engaging with them in the comments, pulling some of their content and reusing it on our pages, which sparks a lot of community engagement because they're grateful that we're using some of their content and stuff. So, I would say majority of the time we're building it on TikTok at the moment, but we're also building a little bit on Instagram as well. So,
Right. And that's awesome. That's great. And that's for those of you who are watching. I just heard Jeremy say about Airbnbs and different, realtors. If you
mhm,
are building community, Instagram is a great place to really have conversations. The community is really about conversations, having
mhm.
thought leadership and having people follow you and connect with you and message you, and looking forward to your next conversation, to your next post, to your next reel, to your next piece of content.
Yeah, on top of that, I'd like to echo that sentiment along with like, sure, the content that you want to create should entice conversation and everything, but also, you as a business owner or as an organization, it's also your due diligence to strive to connect with potential people you want in your community, right? And I
Hmm.
know Doreen and I would say, try and attempt to do that. Like you want to stir conversation in other people's comments um, of things they're doing, or that you might want them in your community by sparking conversation with them too. So community is dual dimensional, right? It's not just because you push out content doesn't mean people are going to engage with you. So it's always something to think about. I like to pop that in there is that you got to put a little bit of effort into it too. So.
Yeah, and I'm seeing that on LinkedIn. We were talking about that earlier. Is
Mhm,
even if you don't post all week, if you leave a bunch of comments, you have that sense of community, right? People know who
mhm,
you are because that's what a community is about. It's connecting with people who are like-minded, have a similar interest, a similar passion, where you have something that you want to further that relationship, right? That's got to be so.
mhm.
And usually within our job, it's industry, right? So maybe
Yep,
you're in a community and we're all love Facebook or we're all social media managers.
yep,
But when you go further, it's because we all love swimming or we all like a brand or we all like hiking or Maybe the community connection is language, right? I've been in communities where everybody speaks Dutch, or, so it has to have a passion piece to it as well when you build that community. So let's talk about that. So once you start a community or build a community, what are some of the things that people, if they're watching, if they're small business owners, if they are social media managers who might just be getting started with community management, what are some of the things, Jeremy, that we need to look out for, that we have to do to not just start a community, but to grow it, to nurture it, to expand it, to, really love it? What do we need to do?
Yeah, I would say, and I kind of wrote a blog post about this, I think, and also something for the Social Media Pulse community. But for me, the one thing, and I'd love to know your thought on this too, the one thing for me that I think is super important about fostering a community, and I like to do it in one word, is complete transparency. It's transparency. Don't try to be something that you're not. Don't try to create content that doesn't mirror your values, or don't try to create content that is controversial or that might just be hitting, trending now. Create and conversate transparently. And I personally think that's the biggest way to build a strong, loyal, and engaging community. That's at least my number one tip, because I personally see a lot of community builders, social media managers, whatever you want to call us at the time, because it's very multifaceted, right? Say they're going to do something and talk about it in their feeds a specific way, but then in the split of a second, they start going off on this other thing that has nothing to do with their morals or their values or how they built up their community. And that personally frustrates me as a consumer and as a person of their community. And so I just think it's really important to stay transparent when creating your content, but also having conversations with your community.
I love that. I love that. So if you're a community manager, talk about community management. Yeah, that makes sense. But you're right. A lot of us are in that, maybe not me, but a lot of us are in the generation where short form content is what we want. We want little nuggets of information, and we see a rabbit and we go the other way, right? So I love that transparency and sticking with what you do and what you know best, right? And then I would add to that, giving more than you're hoping to return, right? Giving of yourself for your community. If you hold things back because you want to sell something to your community, people will know, people will feel. So give as much as you can, and then give some more to your community before you do anything. And the other thing that I think people forget is they build, when they build a community, and, Jeremy, I would love your thoughts on that, but there's so many different reasons to start a community. So being really clear on the goal. What is the goal? Is it really just so you can talk to your community? Is it so you can do research among your potential audience? Is it because you ultimately want to sell them something? What are some of the goals that you see that some of your clients build community for?
Yeah, I'd like to point out one really important goal, and I'm sorry if I keep bringing this back to personal brand, but one goal I had with myself, quite frankly, Dorien, in the beginning, I'm only 25. And so one goal that I had in the beginning when I started my Twitter page was, my goal was just to connect with people that loved marketing. I didn't know at the time that I liked social that much, to be honest with you. I just knew that I loved marketing. And so I don't think in terms of personal goals, or if somebody's listening and they're younger, they're just getting into the space, just graduating university, whatever it is, or just getting into social. I think it's important to have one tight goal, like you said, but it doesn't have to be generate X amount of money, especially if it's a personal goal. It could be as small as let's just start connecting with people that have the same interests as me. Let me just comment 3 times a day on posts that are interesting and pertain to my subject matter or what I want to learn about. So I think that's super important, because I've talked to a lot of young professionals, and they're like, there's so many social media channels. I don't know if I have the time to get on all of them and engage and all that kind of stuff. I said, okay, well then pick one.
Right.
Pick one that you like to hang out on and build from there. And then in terms of a business perspective, repeat that question again. I'm sorry.
I said, so what, I have to think now. You're making me think. So what are some of the goals that people, when you start a community, right?
Okay.
Because there's different reasons why you would want one. Is
Mhm.
it research? Is it to ultimately sell something? Right. I
Mhm.
love that you had a
Mhm.
goal just to meet with as many marketers as you
Yep.
could on
Yeah.
Twitter. And I think that is a wonderful goal, right?
Mhm.
I want to meet with a lot of people on LinkedIn that are small business owners because I can ask them, not use them, I can ask them to be part of my community by
Right.
coming on as a guest on Strategy Talks like you.
Mhm.
I can connect with their audience. I can learn from them.
Mhm.
I can do some research. I can see what they're doing, how they're
Yeah.
speaking,
Yeah.
what they're learning, what conferences they're going to, right? So there's all these different
Mhm.
little mini things
Right.
and there is a reason to connect with people that are like me because I want to see what they're doing and stay
Mhm.
up with all the latest changes in social media too.
Yeah.
Um,
I would say from my perspective, a lot of our clients, and again, I just want to preface, these are like public communities is what I would classify this as. A lot of them are creating their communities for two purposes. One is to educate the people on what they actually do. Because a lot of people sometimes, specifically in our area, we have a lot of local clients. They may not know what this
right.
business actually does. They may not know the ins and outs of the business. And we live in a like mom and pop kind of town. And so relationship is huge. And so if you can portray that relationship in your social content while trying to build a community, that's super important. So one is educate. And then two is just brand awareness purposes of who they are, in terms of the owners, their employees, that kind of thing. Again, kind of emphasizing relationship building digitally, so people feel like they know them before walking in the door.
Sure.
So those are two primarily that I would say, are a lot of the reasons why our clients are building up. And then again, a lot of our clients don't sell stuff online, to be transparent.
Mhm.
They're restaurants, again, designers, that kind of thing. So you actually have to go in for consultations or to eat or whatever. And so there, it's to really get them in the door, and get them excited before they come in the doors and get to know the business before they come in. So
Yeah. So your communities would be for lead generation
Mhm.
purposes, warm
Yep,
leads, right?
yep, yep.
So before we go, we believe it or not, we're at
Oh my
27 minutes.
gosh,
It
that's
just went
great.
so fast. If you had a brand new client or somebody that comes to you and says, I am not anywhere on social media, what
Mhm,
do you recommend they do for organic? Where should they
mhm,
start? What kind of content and what platform or
mhm.
forms? Where would you send them?
Well, I would ask 3 questions. My first question, because I love questions, I love conversating. So my first question would be, where do you consume? So if you're not
Mhm.
on social media, when you go to Google or whatever, are do you consume any type of content? I mean, sure, you don't have a platform, but do you consume anything? Where
Yep.
do you consume? What do you like to create? Do you like to write? Do you like to talk? Do you like to um, be on your phone? Do you like how do you like to create?
Sure.
And then what brings you joy? That's the other thing, I would ask you. So those would be my 3 questions to you, and based off of whatever answer you gave to me, I would lead you to a specific platform, that I think might be good for you to branch into or start. Does
I
that answer
love
your
that.
question?
That was a great answer. Jeremy, how can people connect with you in Wholesome Media? And what is your preferred platform that they make that connection?
Yeah, so love for you to follow us on Twitter right now. We're still trying to really just engage with people on that platform. That's wholesome_media. And then if you'd like to follow us on Instagram as well, that's media_wholesome. And then always willing to connect with you on LinkedIn, Jeremy Linaburg, personally on Twitter at Linaburg_Jeremy. And again, I'd love to be able to connect with all of you all and learn and grow. And if you have any questions, feel free to ping me. So
Awesome. Well, yeah, and make sure that if you do have questions after this, you can put hashtag replay in the comments anywhere you are, and Jeremy and I will go ahead and answer those questions. Jeremy, I appreciate you and your time today. Thank you so
thank
much for
you.
being with me. For those of you who watched this, thank you so much. Those of you who listened, we so appreciate you downloading our podcast and listening to it wherever you may be. I will be back next week with another episode of Strategy Talks. And Jeremy, have a wonderful, wonderful day. Bye, everybody.